Really excited to meet with you all today because I have some really important topics. Of course, my book, The Anti-Inflammatory Diet Meal Prep, is coming out in like 4 days. It comes out on Tuesday. So I just feel incredible about that. And I've been really diving deep into some subjects that have come up because of this book. And I will put a link down below because I had a really interesting discussion last night with Tomato Wellness because they love tomatoes and tomatoes are nightshades. And I have a little bit of nightshades in my book, not a ton, but I think that it's really important to talk about, are nightshades bad for you? Are they good for you? What does that mean? What does that look like? Today, I wanted to actually talk about a few things. I wanted to touch on nightshades, but I'll share that video with you just so you can go over there and learn more about that. I want to talk about lectins. I actually got a comment about my book the other day, which was a really good comment and really helpful. That was talking about, why do you have lectin, beans and foods that have lectins in your book? So I really need to talk about that. And then while we're at it, I might as well talk about soy because I have soy in my book and I'm getting some questions about why. And these are just really important nutrition myths that we absolutely need to talk about. So let's just start with nightshades because, like I mentioned, I chatted with Tomato Wellness on Facebook about this last night. Tomatoes, bell peppers, eggplants, chilies, potatoes, these are all nightshades. They're in the nightshade class. And some people would prefer to avoid nightshades because they think that it causes inflammation and pain, arthritis, joint pain, things like that. The evidence very strongly shows that those foods are anti-inflammatory, not pro-inflammatory. But I definitely want to acknowledge that any person can be allergic or sensitive to any food. So if those foods cause you pain and discomfort, of course, don't eat them. But please give them a shot and work with a registered dietitian like me or some of my other friends, just to make sure that you're not cutting out foods that could actually work in your favor. I mean, all nightshades have tons of fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. Tomatoes are known for lycopene, vitamin C. So I just don't want you to miss out on those healthy foods. In my book, coming out Tuesday, super excited. I have a little bit of nightshades. The majority is not, because a lot of people that are looking for an anti-inflammatory diet, they actually do want to avoid those, and that's totally fine. So I just have a couple recipes in there with some tomatoes and with, I think, one with peppers and a couple with spices. So pretty much you're going to be safe from nightshades if you're avoiding them. But my question to you is, do you need to avoid them? I really wonder about that for you. So if you have any specific questions about that, let me know, but it could be helpful to explore. Let's talk about lectins, and then we're going to end on that. Is a very challenging conversation, but it's also really important. The comment on my book recently, like I mentioned, it was really helpful, really good. The person said that it's a great book and it's really good for meal prep and it makes that easy. And then they said they are confused about why I added beans, because beans have lectins, and lectins are a type of compound in whole grains, whole wheat, beans, lentils, a lot of plant foods. And they said that those foods promote inflammation and they're not good for the GI, for digestion. I agree that they can be a little rough on digestion. The reason for that is that beans and lentils are really high in fiber, right? So especially if you're not used to eating very high fiber, when you start to eat those kind of foods, it can actually be like, oh wow, I have some gas and bloating, and this is a little bit hard on my digestion. You can adjust to that, and there's a lot of things you can do to increase the digestibility of beans. So I don't want you to avoid them just because of that, because there's actually so much you can do to make it better. It was interesting to me, the fact that people might think that lectins are inflammatory. And I know there's whole books written on that, and there's a lot of passion around this subject. So if you're really into that, again, I respect where everybody is and what everyone's doing on their own. As a dietitian, I just don't want you to be cutting out foods that could be incredible for your health. The strong evidence, like over and over in the research, is that beans and whole grains are extremely anti-inflammatory. If anyone here finds a human study that shows me that beans or whole grains are inflammatory, please send it to me. Because when I was writing my book, and the first half of the book, it just dives into all that research, and it's all the whys and hows. I looked really hard. I tried to find research that showed that beans were inflammatory. I tried to find research that showed nightshades were inflammatory. And I really tried to find research that showed that soy was inflammatory. But, time after time, all you'll find is just individuals writing blog posts, none of them with any actual nutrition credibility or education. So that's really challenging. I literally tried to find it. I couldn't. If you have the research and if you disagree with me, definitely shoot it over. Like, I'd love to see that, and we can continue the conversation. But as far as lectins or beans being inflammatory, the research just strongly shows the opposite. And what I want us all to be careful of is villainizing any one compound in plants. Human beings are very much designed to eat plants. It's a really important part of the diet. We actually need a very high fiber diet. There's so much evidence that shows people eating more traditional diets were eating very high fiber, generally, depending on, what geographical area they were living in. But traditional people often ate a ton of fiber. So these foods are really natural, and there's so much research that shows better gut health, lower cholesterol, less risk of colorectal cancer, all if you have the high fiber whole grains and beans intake. So, unless you know that you have a real problem or these really, really cause an issue for you, I just want you to move away from fearing lectins, right? And if you have questions, make sure and reach out specifically, because each person is a little bit unique. The final conversation I wanted to have is a complex one, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. It's about soy. And if there's one topic that I get more questions about and I see more myths about, it's soy, right? So I have soy in this book. And I think some people are not going to like that. And if you don't like soy, then there's a lot of different replacements, and the book is still completely appropriate for you, right? I have a little bit of fish in here. I have beans. I have nuts and seeds. There's all sorts of different things you can do. So if you don't like tofu or tempeh, you can absolutely replace it. So it's still going to be fine for you. But I wanted to tell you the reason that I have soy in here. And there's so much misinformation. Soy is an incredible food. Over and over and over in large human studies, it just shows that it is anti-inflammatory. It calms inflammation down. The reason for that is soy is a legume, right? It's a type of bean. It's high in fiber. It's got some very unique antioxidants. When you process it to get it to be like tofu, it's really high in calcium, right? Because of the way that it's made. Tempeh is another one that I have in here that's fermented. It's awesome for the gut. So we're seeing bone building benefits, we're seeing cardiovascular benefits, and we're also seeing anti-cancer benefits all over the place. I am really passionate about cancer care. I have a long history of working with integrative cancer, and I'm a board certified specialist in oncology nutrition. I recommend soy for my people that are going through cancer. I find it really sad when doctors or other people make my patients afraid of soy, because if you look at all the major cancer institutes, if you look at all the major recommendations, they're all saying, hey, some of that research was really, really old. It was done on animal studies, and we found, as we did more human studies, that it's actually safe and protective. A lot of people, ask me about GMOs. If you don't want GMO exposure, choose organic, because there are a lot of guidelines in place that make it so that organic means non-GMO. So that's a pretty easy fix. It's a really affordable, healthy food. I keep my tempeh in the fridge for like a month. The shelf life is really, really large, really, really versatile, tastes great. And, probably one of the biggest questions that I get is, is it estrogenic? Like, are there, phytoestrogens, plant estrogens? Well, yeah, but plant estrogens aren't human estrogens, right? They're very different. They're not the same compound chemically at all. So they can fit in, the plant estrogens can fit into our human estrogen receptors, and they sit there and protect us and block the estrogen from your own estrogen if you have too much, from animal estrogen if you're eating meat and dairy, so from xenoestrogens, which is like from the plastics in our environment. So it's actually really, really protective and really helpful. And not only found in soy, you're going to find plant estrogens in a lot of different plant foods that you eat. So even if you're avoiding soy because of the estrogen, you're still eating it every day, right? Because it's a natural thing for us to eat. So I just want you to move away from being afraid of soy. I know that you've probably got a lot more questions. So if you do, reach out to me and we can chat about it. I can send you research. But I just was really blown away. You know, I've known about this topic for a long time, but when I was doing the actual research in my book, I was like, I cannot find negative research on soy. It's just not there. There's a lot of like chatter online and individuals that don't think it's good, but nothing that I do is going to be based on my opinion. It's going to be based on the evidence and the science. So I just wanted to clear some of those things up. The lectins, the nightshades, the soy, because there's so many questions and misinformation about it. Those are some of the reasons that I have those foods in my book. And if you don't jive with those foods, then there's lots of other options in here because there's over 80 recipes. So, you know, it really is designed to be mostly plant-based and very, very versatile. It comes out on Tuesday. If you've got a copy, I really want you to leave a review, an honest one, just so I can know exactly what you think. And then, you know, keep doing these videos and education. I'm going to do a live for my launch on Tuesday. And then I'm also going to do one more next Friday. I've also, pro tip here, got some giveaways coming up too. So if you haven't got your hands on a book, you will be able to get maybe a giveaway in the future. So thank you so much for joining me. It was really great to talk about some of these controversial topics. Please drop me a message if I'm making you mad, if I'm making you happy. I want to hear both ways. And yeah, we're going to continue this conversation. Keep sending me your questions that you have. And thank you so much for all your love and support. It's just really great to see you guys. And I'm going to try to turn all these cameras I've got going off now.